Good evening, cousins, and welcome to another Shattersong LARP Diaries episode. Today, we're shifting across from Menier's Fate and back to Empire, because as we enter the run-up to E1, we're starting to see some winds of fortune, or in this case, a wind of war. And what we're going to be looking at is the Mournwold Concerned Wind. There is one released for, not Spiral, for Oz, the conflict in the southwest. And we'll touching over there a little bit later, but just to be blunt, I think the Mournwold is more interesting than that conflict down there. So, the marchers will be happy if any of you are listening. Great. So let's begin. So this is called Over Western Hills, Section 1, set in stone. Before the autumn equinox, the Empire fought desperately to hold the Mournwold. The Tusks were at the forefront, leading an alliance of Wintermark and Navarre armies. They were pushed back, and the Mourn fell to the Western Orcs. Now the Jotun have dominion over the Mournwold, controlling the rich regions of Greensward, Ore Hills, Chalk Downs, and Southmoor. For 30 years, Jarl Hakon has ruled here, and as representative of King Gudmundur and the Southern Jotun. Now his banners fly once again over the market town of Sarkheim, and they have taken 4 regions, the south and the east, but the Jotun are not done. Barely resting to regroup, their assault continues. They are absolutely uncompromising. 10 armies pushing the Empire on every front, seeking nothing less than to see the entire Mournwold under their control. Tens of thousands of Jotun united in an overwhelming assault. By their side fight nearly 10,000 warriors drawn from the Summer Realm, from the Fields of Glory. Hang on, just 10. Okay, 10 armies. Okay, that'd be 50,000 troops on average, of which 20% are from the Summer Realm. Okay. Reveling in the fray and exulting in each clash of sword and shield. They seem almost to want to drive the Empire from the Mourn by force of will as much as by strength of arms. We are here, they seem to say, and we plan to stay. Yet the marchers, human and orc alike, do not quickly bow their heads to tyrants. They remember the long years of durance, of back-breaking labour, and of the contemptuous noblesse oblige of their Jotun conquerors. They resist and grimly pay the price for their rebellion. The miners of Ore Hills and Freemoor in particular continue to fight against the invaders, even though the orcs technically command the rich hills of central Mournwold. Thanks in part to Imperial heroes, their rebellion spreads, continuing to vex the barbarians at every turn. The Jotun armies in Kalesa and Narkist seem united in their goal, but there are cracks in their wall of fire and steel, provided one knows where to look. When Imperial heroes come to the aid of the Ore Hills miners, they also defeated 3 respected Summerborn champions: Hrafnir Rielsen of the Fellhammers, Frolda Ulfsson of the Mandala's Roar, and the doughty Dagnar Thundrasdottir of the Shield of the Mountain. This display of the Empire's strength has shaken the certainty of the Jotun a little, challenged the resolve of those that fought beneath their banners. Some of the warriors from those 3 armies seem more interested in proving themselves against Imperial troops at the cost of their overall strategy to conquer the Mournwold. The Knights of Eleonaris, the warriors of the Fields of Glory, are fighting on both sides in this conflict. There may be as many as 20,000 heralds and soldiers of summer in the Mournwold this season. Some have the aspect of humans, others of orcs, but the majority are clearly supernatural beings from another world. Elven knights in scarlet plate or crimson chain, fey goblin folk with bandy legs and goldenwood spears, leonine beasts whose melodious voices sing hymns of battle and glory, and swift scouts mounted on black stags with spreading antlers. They show the same eagerness when fighting alongside the Empire against the Jotun as they do when fighting against Imperial troops alongside the barbarians. They show no sign of remorse when they cut their kinsfolk down either, and everywhere they exult in the splendour and the chaos. Some worry that the presence of so many knights is having an adverse effect on the soldiers that fight here, on both sides, encouraging them to take foolish risks in the hope of inspiring songs and stories about their grandeur. The Mandalors Raw in particular throw themselves into the fray in pursuit of glory, perhaps seeking to reassure the warriors of Elinaris that to fight at their side they are still worthy of her favour, despite the defeat of Froda Ulfsson. They are perhaps too quick to engage, too slow to retreat when they are outmatched, and they pay a price in blood for their boastful pride. In the main, though, all the Jotun armies seem dedicated to crushing the Imperial defences, presenting an irresistible wave that sweeps into Freemore and lays siege to Landskeeper's bulwark. Against this tide of blades, the storm of fury, the defenders of the Mourn are hard-pressed to stand their ground. The Quiet Steppe are a new favourite Variscan army. The Bloodcloaks and the Green Shield fall back and orderly retreat eastward to resupply and regroup. The Tusks remain, however, and for 3 long days they hold Landskeeper's bulwark against the invaders by themselves, until the Granite Pillar arrive from Cassanea to bolster their defences. While the other hard-pressed armies that stood against Jotun conquest may have retreated, the Empire has not given up on the Mournwold. The Granite Pillar work alongside the Tusks to organise the defences, strengthening the garrison of Landskeeper's bulwark and establishing a strong centre for imperial resistance. Together, the disciplined highborn and marcher soldiers gather intelligence, studying the aggressive Jotun strategy for every chink and crack that their allies can exploit. They form a firm foundation for the fight in the Mournwold and refuse to cede any more of Freemore, forcing the Jotun to lay siege to the Landskeeper's bulwark if they wish to claim the region. That combined foundation of defence and intelligence proves invaluable in the face of the Jotun tide. In the hills of Freemore, the numerical advantage of the Jotun is blunted a little. There are only so many warriors that can attack Imperial defences at one time. The Tusks' stubborn refusal to quit the Mourn helps fan the flames of rebellion, with people inspired by the example they have set for the people of the Wold. If the people respected the Tusks and their general, before now many of them nurture a fierce love for those who fight under the Boarhead banner. They are the army of the Mourn, people say. Let nobody doubt it. Section 2. The King's Kind Offer. The forces in Freemore are brave, there is no doubt, but they cannot stand against the Jotun. They are outnumbered, and it is clear that they are going to be overwhelmed. Landskeeper's bulwark will fall. The armies will be forced back into Miaren or to Sarte. The battlefields will be scattered with Imperial dead, and there will be nothing to show for it save a slowing of the Jotun advance. Yet still they fight. Still they hang on. Still they grasp for every advantage they can. Their enemy cannot help but respect them for it, even as they press them back step by step through the hills of Freemore. Even as a third of the Jotun forces turn their attention to the conquest of Alderley and Green March. History will remember this brave stand and the terrible price the Empire paid to slow the Jotun. One cold morning, a month after the autumn equinox, King Godummenir, Jarl of Jarls, leader of the southern Jotun, sends a messenger under flag of truce to Landskeeper's bulwark, offering to discuss terms of surrender. The Imperial armies will be free to retreat, given a day to collect their dead and wounded, and gather their forces for a retreat from the Mournwold. Unspoken, behind the words, is the Jotun assurance that if they do not accept this offer, they will be utterly crushed. Landskeeper's bulwark will be destroyed, and the outcome will be the same, save that thousands of Imperial soldiers will die, who could otherwise have lived to fight another day. The defenders of Freemore ask for time to discuss the offer and are given a day. The Fist of Ulven, the Skjaldirborn, the Howling Knight, and the Mandalor's Roar make camp in the hills below the fortress to await the Empire's response. Part 3. The Other Shoe. A keen beater on the wall. Sorry, I should express some kind of maturity there, but just a keen beater on the walls. Oh dear. A keen beater on the walls of Landkeeper's Bulwark marks the arrival of a messenger at the king's camp. Sees the chaos that erupts in their wake. They watch as the howling night break camp, and near 5,000 orcs and their Fey allies start marching south, even as the sun is falling into the west. The news spreads quickly through the defenders of the keep, and a sense of grim satisfaction follows in its wake. The second Imperial force has entered the Mournwold, passing swiftly through the western forest of Alderley, and attacked the Jotun in Southmoor, laying siege to the town of Sarcombe, and threatening to cut the vital supply lines out of the Affadam. The Bounders and the Drakes, with the Imperial Orcs of the Summer Storm and Autumn Hammers at their side, have cut through the light woods on the borders with Greenmarch and into the northwest hills of Southmoor. The strong reeds remain behind in Bragisland, maintaining their vigil over the Orcs at Graven Rock. Their summer allies ensure that they cannot turn their attention to the Imperial forces moving into the Mournwold for fear of losing their ill-gotten fortress and control of Gravenmarch. The Marchers and the Imperial Orcs have fought together in the southern marshes for many times, and they make good time through Alderley. They find the Orcs somewhat unprepared for an attack through the woods. The barbarians are expecting an attack from Caraman or Tasato, rather than Bragisland or Mitwold. Yet the western barbarians are born to war, and they respond quickly to this new threat. They adapt to the change of circumstance, rallying around the fight, the newcomers bent on a daring strike at the root of the Jotun presence in the Mourne. The Imperial armies pushing down through Alderley move steadily and cautiously, with an unstoppable momentum. They are ready to give ground in one place to gain advantage in another, and above all, they fight to preserve life. The Jotun may welcome a glorious death in battle, but Imperial soldiers do not have that luxury. Straight to the heart, Part 4. The armies skirt the heart of Alderley. While the Feni may be gone, the marchers know better than to push their luck in the deeper forest, and push down into Southmoor. Their aim is Sarcombe, control the town, and they'll control the region, and even the territory following swiftly after. They find the Jotun waiting for them, both the Lion of the North and the Shield of the North, under the command of Queen Ursa Jansdottir, Jarl of Jarls, Monarch of Calcea. The Queen is a clever strategist, keenly aware that she needs to meet the Imperial advance and turn it back into Greendown and Alderley. She leads her warriors in an all-out attack against the intruders. War erupts across the hills of northern Southmoor. At first the Empire has the advantage, but once news of their presence spreads, the Queen's forces are reinforced by warbands and generals moving to protect their supply lines. The campaign balances on a knife edge, neither side able to claim a decisive victory. It may be that the two forces will fight each other to a standstill, neither able to gain the advantage. While the Howling Knight marches to reinforce Southmoor, the focus of King Gudmundur remains in the north, focused on Freemoor and the fortress there. Other Jotun armies seem more interested in pressing the rebels of the Mournwold, scouring the Ore Hills and Chalk Downs as they try to stamp out the guerrilla fighters who resist Jotun dominion. But then, another Imperial force crosses the borders of the Mournwold. Coming up into Southmoor from the Brass Coast are the valiant Pegasus, the Narwhal Spear, the Eastern Sky, and the Wolves of War. The League army is heavily supported by independent captains, united, despite their differences, by autumn magic, as well as a cadre of crimson-skinned battle dancers, shrouded in black leather and crimson silk, who bring the fiery passions of the shadowed flame to any who will fight alongside them. They are also joined, at the last moment, by the 7th Wave. The 3rd Highborn army has crossed the entire Empire to join the battle in the Mournwold, thanks to a powerful autumn enchantment. They should be exhausted from their forced march, but loyalty and courage give them the strength to fight despite their long march. As the armies secure the southern border and strike north towards Sarcombe, The Suak of the Narwhal's spear launched foray after foray against their foes, striking deep into the hills and crossing the greensward to harry the Jotun forces, seeking to reinforce the Queen's position at Sarkholm. They also seek to learn as much as they can about their foes. With the supernatural clarity of the Day Realm at their command, the Ice Walkers and Mediators of Wintermark work closely with other Imperial armies, forming a vital liaison between the defenders of Landskeeper's Bulwark and the Marcher and Imperial Orc armies coming down from the south, as well as spreading their network of eyes and spears across the front where they can do the most good. These new arrivals are enough to put a thumb on the balance, to turn the tide, and the Jotun know it. The king pulls his forces away from Landskeeper's Bulwark and marches south, but the hills are in the way, and time is against him. Part 5. 2 fronts. The first major confrontation of the war takes place at the Miller's Crossing, a village in Southbourne on the edge of Alderley. Queen Ursa's troops suffer a crushing defeat and are forced to retreat and then retreat again. From that point, the Jotun cede more and more ground as they fall back towards Sarkholm. On the other border, the Jotun fight bitterly to prevent the Southern Imperial strike force from establishing a beachhead there. The Winterfolk, Highborn, League and Dornish forces are at a disadvantage, but their courage and commitment to victory means that they too force the Jotun forces back towards Sarkholm. And by the end of the second month, the fighting has reached as far as the market town. The Jotun prepare to stand their ground. A great encampment spills out around the walls as the Jotun armies prepare to defend their hold over Sarkholm, whatever it takes. The walls of the market town have been reinforced by Jotun engineers, clearly intending to transform them into a full-scale fortification. But the work is far from finished. It is clear, though, that the Jotun hold on to the town, and the surrounding hills is iron strong. Then they will prove a difficult-to-break force before the winter solstice, and the worsening weather will force a lull in the hostilities. However, the barbarians have not counted on the bravery of the Mournfolk. Part 6. Battle of the Oak Leaves. One cold morning, a group of the folk of Jotun, think as thralls, humans and orcs working together, throw open the gates and let the tusks in, revealing the changing of their colours. They let the tusks and the bounders into Sarkholm. The rebels aid the attack wherever they can, sowing confusion in the Jotun ranks by setting fires, attacking sentries, and raising a great hue and cry that echoes across the town. The resistance don leaves taken from the old oak, turned gold and copper by the autumn. Some choose to fight with weapons that they have hidden from the Jotun or supplied by the miners of the Ore Hills. Others offer less martial support, healing, provisions and knowledge of the town, and even those who cannot fight join in, beating pots and pans, giving voice to a powerful rough music aimed at the Jotun. The orcs are taken aback, clearly believing that they had broken the spirits of the thralls in Southmoor. The fighting spreads through Sarkholm, spilling out into the neighbouring hills. By late afternoon, the barbarians are again pushed back, abandoning the market town and regrouping near the ruins of the old fort of Hilltop above the town. As evening draws in, they retreat, conceding Sarkholm to the Empire. Control of this market town has become something of a symbol of power in the Mournwold, and neither side wishes to see it in ruins. Yet the best intentions do little to shield a place when war comes to it. In the battle aftermath of Oakleaves, the Sarkholm Register, the Bounders' Hall, the Metal Market, the ancient tree that stands at the heart of the town, all are marked by the fighting. They bear their new scars with pride. There are too many dead. Imperial soldiers, Jotun warriors, and the citizens of Southmoor lie scattered in the streets. The fury of the day gives way to sorrow as the dead are mourned, and the butcher's bill tallied. But there is little time to weep. The war continues, and even though they have lost Sarkholm, the Jotuns show no sign, for they consider themselves beating. Part 7, A Slow Walk to Morning. After Sarkheim, the Empire has the upper hand in the Mournwold, but only just. As news spreads across the territory that the town has been liberated, it further strengthens the spirit of the marchers. More of them turn out to support the rebels fighting in all hills and chalk downs. Many wear oak leaves in memory of the brave rebels of Southmoor. The narwhal's spear is able to make contact with several of these groups and offer a little support in their endeavours. Chaos spreads across the Mournwold. The Jotun continue to fight, and twice the tide of war washes back towards the town, leaving the walls breached and battered. In the north, the fell hammers and the Mandela's roar make a spirited attempt to storm the walls at Landskeeper's bulwark, but they are turned back. The night howlers and the southern bear make a desperate strike into the woods of Alderley to try and sever Imperial supply lines, but the narwhal's spear have led their forces astray in the dark woods, and the drakes launch a counter-attack that sees the Jotun eventually abandon their press into the forest. The Jotun still continue to push, but they fail to reclaim their momentum. In the end, battered on two fronts and slowly losing their grip on the people of the Mourn, King Gudmundir and Queen Yrsa meet in the hills southwest of Sarkheim. The following day, the Jotun army start to pull back from the Mournwold, retreating west into the Affadam. This is no rout, but clearly a carefully considered strategy. Rather than risk being cut off in the Mournwold by the loss of supply lines passing through Southmoor, the armies draw back. There are still plenty of Jotun fighting the defence, and this rearguard of the Mandela's Roar in particular seem loath to quit the field while there are still Imperials to fight. The warbands of the Jotun champions quickly turn to swell their ranks as they seek glory in battle against their Imperial peers. Yet, in the end, even the Mandela's Roar will not disobey the order of the Jarl of Jarl, and they quit the Mournwold defeated. However, not everyone follows the commands of the King and Queen. Jarl Harkon refuses to leave the Mourn once more. Once he ruled here, and it is clear that he has no intention of retreating despite the Imperial forces ranged against him. Nobody knows where the story starts. Perhaps a bounder overheard it, perhaps a thrall brought it with them into liberation, but the tale of Jarl Harkonnen's refusal quickly spreads in the Mourn. The old warrior faced the king and the queen and simply refused to leave. "Here I stay," they said. Queen Yrsa frowned, but King Gudmundir embraced his kinsman and prayed that the Fardir would watch over him while he kept the hearth fires burning in Mournwold. Then Jarl Harkon and his household withdrew from Southmoor to the stronghold at Far Strider's Watch in the Greensward to prepare to hold the remaining Jotun lands in the Mournwold against the Empire. Many of the Jotun champions went with him, and while the Jotun armies begin their march out of the Mourn and into the westwards, these champions remain. Imperial forces press close on their heels and harry them as they go, tearing out the last vestige of Jotun control of Southmoor. As the winter solstice dawns, an uneasy peace settles over the Mourn, for the moment at least. With the conquest of Southmoor, the Empire once again controls the territory, but their hold is precarious. By threatening the Jotun supply lines, they left them with a choice between being surrounded in central Mournwold or retreating to reconsider their strategy. They chose the latter, but there is no indication that they have abandoned their ambition to reclaim the Mourn. Between the Imperial forces in Freemoor and those assailing Southmoor, 6,000 soldiers have fallen in battle, alongside an unknown number of resistance fighters and civilians. The Jotun have clearly paid a higher price. Their strategy of overwhelming force and reticence to give ground, leaving many dead or isolated in the dangerous hills. While the armies have quit the field to regroup, the Jotun will not fully abandon the Mourn. Farstrider's Watch serves as the new hall of Jarl Harkon and his allies. They will keep fighting to hold the remaining regions of the Mournwold from the Empire, and they are supported by an unknown number of champions. Outnumbered and outclassed, they will surely need to be dealt with before the rest of the Jotun forces return and reclaim their liberated territory. For now, though, the Mournwold is imperial, even if the war is far from over. So, a nice long one, and from what I can vaguely remember, this kind of came as a surprise for the players, and the generals in the MC tent. Just saw 10,000 Jotun just appeared pretty much out of nowhere and went straight into the Mournwold just after it was starting to quieten down. And it looks like they've played whack-a-mole, not realising that they are the mole. They've been spanked pretty hard by a huge number of Imperial armies. And overall, we have lost an army's worth of troops, 6,000. An army's 5,000 as standard. I think 7,500 if it's large. We've lost an army. We've just lost an army's worth of casualties to push them out. So hopefully the marchers amongst you will appreciate the sacrifice by your neighbours. So game information. The Mournwold itself. The Empire has conquered Southmoor and with it regained control of the territory. Jotun armies have retreated into the Affadam, but there is still a significant barbarian presence inside the territory. Jarl Harkon refuses to leave the Mourn and has raised his banners over Farstrider's watch on the Greensward. So the Empire has driven the Jotun out, conquered the region, and is once again imperial, albeit in a precarious state. The Senate will be able to assign the territory during the winter solstice, and as with the recent assignment of the barons, the civil service will raise the matter as a procedural motion on Saturday afternoon, if no senator has brought a Senate motion before then. While it is likely the Mournwold will be assigned to the marchers, there is no legal requirement for the Senate to do so, and any imperial nation is eligible to control the Western Territory. Perhaps the Imperial Orcs, long promised a land of their own, should get another territory. After all, they were the ones who helped reclaim it. Chalkdowns, Ore Hills, and Greensward remain under the Jotun control, as does Farstrider's Watch, but there is still a significant force of Jotun, including several warbands of champions, in the Mourn and under the banner of Jarl Harkon. The Jarl still commands the Orcs from the fortification, and there is still a significant military threat here that will need to be dealt with. Participation! Oakleaves. Rebellion has spread in the Mournwold against the Jotun occupiers. Any character whose personal resource is in the Mournwold is encouraged to create a story about the rebellious actions taken there. While the impact of the rebellion is narrative rather than mechanical, the actions of Imperial heroes and the generals of the marchers have inspired those people to resist the Jotun. Some may have taken up arms and fought alongside the miners of the Ore Hills. Others might have taken more passive approaches to resistance, but it is clear that the Jotun are going to have their work cut out for them if they wish to exert their control over the Mournwold in future. Participation. Knights of Glory. Alienaris' knights have fought on both sides of the campaign in the Mournwold, and anyone whose military unit supported an army fighting in the Mourn may choose to embrace the influence of these supernatural warriors. Okay, this is cool. So this season there were 20,000 Knights of Glory fighting on both sides, and any character whose military unit supported one of the armies that fought there may choose to begin the next event experiencing a role-playing effect. As follows. You are filled with absolute confidence. Nothing is beyond you if you put your mind to it. Now is the time to act, to pursue your goals you have been neglecting. Anyone who questions your prowess must be taught a quick lesson about the foolishness of doubting you. Furthermore, if you are a changeling whose military unit supported one of the armies, you may choose to experience an additional role-playing effect. You feel a yearning to see the Summer Realm in all its glory, and the mortal realm seems dull and lifeless in comparison. The company of people who are not changelings nor summer heralds seems tedious and mundane, their concerns petty and limited. Such characters may also use their experience of fighting alongside the Knights of Glory to permanently increase the strength of their lineage. So nice, we've got some changeling tensions and frictions. It's pretty cool. While you experience either or both of these role-playing effects, you gain an additional boon. You get 1 additional hero point. Well done, Fighty types, congratulations on your new cleave. Once it's used, it cannot be recovered, and the role-playing effect begins to fade. The hero point is gone once you spend it, or at the end of the winter solstice. The benefit even applies to characters who do not have the hero skill inherently. They can use the hero point to overcome a role-playing effect, or to use any items or enchantments that rely on spending hero points themselves. Participation, Tusks and Reeds. While they remain in the Mournwold, the Tusks have gained the benefit of the resourceful quality. The strong Reeds have maintained a defence of Bragisland, and a Marcher character whose military unit supported the Tusks or the Reeds this season may receive a special benefit if they receive an appropriate anointing. Ooh, okay, so we've got religious benefits now. Nice. So, any Marcher character whose military unit was assigned to the Tusks or Reeds this downtime may choose to gain a special personal benefit. If they receive an anointing of pride, loyalty, or hatred. Hatred does not have a link on the wiki page. So hatred is purity, for those of you who don't know. And I'm sure all of you know at least one person who may know someone who's a purity cultist. Okay. If they receive an anointing of pride, loyalty, or hatred before timeout on Friday during the winter solstice, then in addition to the normal benefits, they will gain 1 additional rank of endurance. Oh, I think that's really cool. It's a nice little soft roleplay effect. For the actual risking the death of your character being caught with a hatred aura for a point of endurance, I think I think the roleplay driven characters will go for that. The mechanically minded amongst you might not. Cool. The effect is not magical. It does not register on either Detect Magic or Insight. It is likely a result of the powerful hearth magic of the recent oath sworn by the generals of the Tusks and the Strong Reeds, and the clear demonstration of their commitment to the Mournwold and to Bragisland, respectively. This benefit lasts only as long as you continue to be committed to freeing the Mournwold and defeating the Jotun, or to protecting Bragisland and driving the invaders out of Graven's March as appropriate. If your will to do so falters, then the bonus rank of endurance is lost and cannot be regained. It is also permanently lost if your anointing is removed or changed to one other than pride, loyalty, or hatred. In any event, the benefit will fade along with the anointing by the start of the spring equinox. This advantage is only available to March characters who supported one of these 2 armies. Finally, there is a battle opportunity. So Jarl Harkon, who once ruled the Mournwold, remains behind to coordinate the Jotun defence. He has set up his hall at Farstrider's Watch on Greensward and clearly intends to give the Empire a fight if they wish to reclaim it. The Ore Hills, or the Chalk Downs, he does not care. The Eternal Zakalwe? Yeah. The Eternal Zakalwe, however, in response to a request from the Archmage of Day, believes that there may be a way to deal with Harkon that does not require a lengthy siege. Alright, so we're hell diving behind Jotun lines and beating the crap out of them. I'm not a general, but I think any opportunity to just push the Jotun out of the Mournwold will be taken by the military council, because the marches are so influential. Of course they want to. And at this point we've already committed 10 armies to this. Yeah, blot it out, and means we can redistribute those armies as quickly as possible, especially against the Druge. Alright then, so pretty good Wind of War to kick us off for 2025. I'm not a Marcher player. I've seen some comments on Facebook around the Marchers kind of liking this wind, and it seems pretty cool that we're not entering yet another slugfest with the Jotun inside the Mournwold, which is wonderful, because as a player base I think we're all sick of Jotun line battles. Whilst they're very good for like getting people warmed up for the year who've forgotten how to fight, or maybe inducting new players, I just want these to stop. And if this is actually pitched as like a raid behind enemy lines, and like we're going into a fort and then pushing them out, that would be cool. But if we just line up on the main field and we beat each other with sticks for 2 hours, again, more than once this year, I'm going to be personally miffed. But otherwise, cool. That brings us to the end of this episode. Very, very, very much thanking you for listening to this point. And we'll be catching you next time, either for a bit more Menhir's Fate, because they're releasing more stuff about their gods and their game, but also we're starting to see the winds coming out now, so we'll vary that up between the two LARPs. And that is, of course, between some episodes we've got planned on looking at some new players who've also joined, myself and Farishka, and also talking about potentially some group ideas for Menhir's Fate as well. But until then, friends, ciao.